On June 5th, just 2 months before my 52nd birthday, the unimaginable happened. I had a heart attack. I was on the deck sipping a cold beer while waiting for the grill to heat up. Initially, I thought I had swallowed wrong, but as the pain worsened, I knew something was seriously wrong. The agony was unbearable and rapidly escalating, as if someone was standing on my chest. My heart was pounding out of control. I collapsed onto my knees and then onto my back, struggling for breath. Thank goodness for cell phones, because it's the only thing that saved me. I reached into my pocket, pulled out my phone, and dialed 911. I don't remember if I said help or anything else, but within a few minutes, there was a loud crash. And suddenly, people were all around me, doing things to me. I must have blacked out because the next thing I recall, I was in a hospital bed, being informed that I was being prepped for surgery. "Mr. Davis, can you hear me?" a voice asked. "We need to perform a heart bypass on you immediately. Do you understand?" I nodded. They placed a clipboard under my hand, and I signed my name to some kind of form. I had no idea what it was, nor did I care. I just wanted the pain to stop. "Is there anyone we should contact?" a nurse inquired. "My wife." "My wife, is she here?" I asked. "No, you were alone when the paramedics arrived. I'll have someone check back as soon as possible," she told me. "Now try to relax. We're on the way to the operating room and you should be fine." At this point, I vaguely understood what was happening, but nothing was really registering as I was wheeled into an elevator and then into a large, bright room. "Breathe deeply, and when you wake up, it'll all be over," the doctor assured me. My life didn't flash before my eyes. I didn't have any out-of-body experience, and thankfully, I didn't see any bright light at the end of a tunnel. I just woke up in the recovery room to a middle-aged nurse standing over me, taking my pulse. "How are you feeling?" she asked. I tried to speak, but my mouth was too dry. Although my mind was working, my body wasn't cooperating. "Don't worry, you'll feel much better in a couple of hours. Just get some rest," she said. She was right. The next time I woke up, I felt a lot better, yet worse at the same time. There, sitting next to my bed, was my wife of 30 years, Sarah. "Are you okay?" When I got home, the neighbors told me what happened. "The doctors said you're going to be just fine," she said, smiling. My mouth was still very dry, so when I tried to speak, I could barely get the words out. "Leave me alone," I began to say, but it came out softer than a whisper. "What are you trying to say?" Sarah asked, leaning closer to hear me. "Get out of my sight and leave me the hell alone," I said, loud enough for her to hear this time. "Honey, don't try to talk. Just lie back and rest." "I'll be right here," she said, touching my cheek. At that moment, my heart rate shot up, my face flushed, and a nurse rushed into my room to see what was happening. "Leave me alone," I now shouted at her. "Miss, you're going to have to leave. You're upsetting the patient and raising his vitals. Please leave, miss," the nurse told Sarah. "But I'm his wife," she stammered. "Be that as it may, you're upsetting him, and I need you to leave right now." "Chris, I'll be in the hallway if you need me," she said, looking back at me as she was ushered out of my room. I motioned to the nurse, and she came close. "No visitors, please," I told her, "and only discuss my condition with me. No one else." "I understand, Mr. Davis. I'll put a sign on your door that says no visitors are allowed, and I'll make sure the doctor discusses your condition only with you. Will you be needing anything else?" she asked. I shook my head. "Well, if that's the case, please try to relax and get some sleep. The doctor will be in later to check on you. You don't get any rest in a hospital. If they're not poking you with needles, they're taking blood or trying to give you some damn pill in the middle of the night." "Sleep? Yeah, sure," I thought to myself. The doctor came in and said everything had gone according to plan. They had done a triple bypass, and when they went in, they found evidence of other damage, as they called it, from an earlier attack. I told him that it probably happened about 5 months earlier, but I thought it was just stress. "You're very lucky, Mr. Davis. If you hadn't had your cell phone, you might not have made it," he explained. "You really need to get your weight and blood pressure under control, or you're going to end up seeing me again," he said, looking at my chart. "I want you out of bed tomorrow morning. I need you to start walking at least 10 minutes every hour, and after that we'll see how it goes." "How long will I be laid up, Doc?" I asked. "If you're asking when you can go back to work, The answer is not for at least 3 months. When you go home, you'll need someone there at all times, at least for the first couple of weeks. After that, we'll play it by ear depending on how you feel. Doc, I won't be rehabbing at home, so can you recommend a good facility? Well, there's a pretty good one about 8 miles from here that has a great workout area and a dietitian on staff, he told me. All you need to do is have our business office call and set it up for you. Let me warn you, though, it is kind of pricey, but it's got an excellent reputation. By the way, you've had a lot of visitors, and a few of them became a little irate when they were informed that you'd requested no visitors or phone calls, he said with a puzzled smile. I guess you had your reasons, but I'd hate to be in your shoes when you go home, he said, walking out the door. Who said I was going home, I thought. A week later, I was sitting in a private room in the rehabilitation center. It overlooked a serene pond and felt more like a hotel suite than a hospital room. I was given a full physical evaluation and asked how long I planned on staying. Let's plan for 3 months and go from there, I told the coordinator. Mr. Davis, you're about 80 pounds over your ideal weight and not in the best physical condition. We need to get you in the gym and set you up with an exercise routine. But first, we're going to start you on a good nutritional program to get your weight in line. It's not going to be easy, but if you follow the staff's instructions, you'll see results. So with that said, I'll take you down to the gym so you can get started. Well, you've got me for the next 3 months, so do with me as you wish, I said with a laugh as we began to put a recovery program in place. You're probably wondering how I got myself into this condition. The reason's simple: I'm too good at what I do for a living. I'm not bragging or trying to boost my ego, it's just a fact. I have a knack for finding the best people for the job, making sure they're fully trained, and then letting them do what I hired them to do. I learned a long time ago that I couldn't do it all. I tried for a while, but it almost killed me. Now I sit back and let others do their jobs. I give them a project, tell them what results the customer is looking for, and then let them loose to do what they do best. Life is now good. You see, I'm the sales manager for a consulting firm. I've been with the company for 26 years, and a few years ago, I became a silent partner. No one, and I mean no one, including my wife, knows this. 8 years ago, I took a 20 cut in pay to buy into the company. I've got 6 more years left, and I'll be a 50 owner with my buddy Paul. Sounds like I've got it together? Well, I do when it comes to my business life. However, my personal life is another matter. I've got 2 spoiled kids and a social climbing wife. My youngest, David, barely made it through college and was more than a little upset when I didn't offer him a position in the company. I just told him that family and business don't mix. Between you and me, though, I didn't want to be the one to fire his lazy ass when he didn't work out. He did find a nice girl and got married, but he still hits me up for money about every other month. I guess I never learned how to say no to him, but no more. Natalie, who is 3 years older than David, is a professional student. I think she's on the 7-year graduation plan. She's changed her major 4 times, and I haven't a clue what it is now, but no matter. At the start of this school year, I told her she had 1 semester left to finish, and after that she was on her own. She went to her mother and complained, and when Sarah approached me, I just told her enough was enough. You kind of see where I'm going with this, don't you? I'm done being the nice guy with the open checkbook. At 29 and 26 years old, I shouldn't have to support them any longer, and I'm not going to. They are now officially off my payroll. As for my wife, Sarah, that's a whole other story. About 7 months ago, I was feeling a little frisky one night. Our sex life had dwindled over the last year, and I was trying to jumpstart it to where it should be. I'm not looking for sex 5 times a week, but 3 would be nice. Well, where was I? Oh yeah, after dinner I gave her a glass of wine and asked if she was in the mood. For what? She asked. You know, how about you and I go upstairs and have a little fun? I said with my best smile. I'm a little tired tonight, and you know I have that charity event to plan for, was her reply. Come on, Sarah, it's not like I'm asking for a kidney, just a little loving. I should have known it wasn't going to go as I'd planned since Sarah looked about as interested as someone waiting for a root canal. We undressed, got into bed, and that's when the complaints started. I was taking up too much room, she was hot, I was sweating, and finally she didn't want me lying on top of her because I'd gained too much weight. "Why don't you climb on top, babe, and ride me like you used to?" I suggested. "You know I have a hard time getting off that way," Sarah whined. "Okay, just forget about it," I said, getting off the bed and walking toward the bathroom. "Where are you going?" "To take care of myself in private so I don't have to hear you complain about how unpleasant it is to have sex with me anymore," I said as I shut the door. I handled the situation myself, so to speak, and when I was finished, I headed to our spare bedroom. "Now where are you going?" she called out. "Away from you before I say something I regret," I replied, closing the door. She was right. I'd gained a lot of weight over the last couple of years. I guess I should be taking better care of myself, but I'd gotten lazy. I had taken up golf, but that was more just to bring in new business. I didn't like it much and really wasn't good at it. The only good thing that came out of joining the country club was that they were always hosting some type of activity. I was gone the next morning long before Sarah even got up. I was still angry, but it mellowed a little. I guess it wasn't all her fault, I said to myself as I sat at my desk eating a donut and washing it down with my second cup of coffee. It was about 10:30 when I got an email from Sarah at her work. There was no "I am sorry" or "I love you," just how she wasn't in the mood last night, and instead of talking to her about it, I had just left in a huff. I put my coffee down and tried to think back to the last time we had what I'd consider a good session. Lately it was a quickie, a hand job, or her just lying there waiting for me to finish. It really had gone downhill, and it seemed that Sarah would rather do without than do it with me anymore. That's when it hit me. Maybe she's getting her needs met elsewhere. That's when I decided to push the issue and see what happens. What the hell? What was she going to do, cut me off? I replied with the following email. "Whatever you're doing with whoever, you'd better stop right now if you want to stay married to me." When I hit the send button, I knew I'd get some sort of reaction, but I thought she'd at least wait until I got home. Sarah sent a scathing email accusing me of how dare I accuse her of cheating, that I was the problem with our sex life, not her, and that since I got winded just walking up 2 flights of stairs, what kind of sex life was I expecting? That maybe she should get an oxygen tank and put it next to the bed for the nights I wanted sex. And those were some of the nicer comments she wrote back. Her final comment was that maybe I should move to the guest room permanently so that she wouldn't be held responsible for me having a heart attack. My response was short and to the point, so be it. I didn't go home for supper that night. I ate with my partner, Paul. I thought about not going home at all, but I figured that would make matters even worse. Sarah was waiting for me when I came through the door. "How dare you? How dare you accuse me of cheating?" she yelled. "I have never been unfaithful in all the years we've been married." "Well, I figured if you're not getting it from me any longer, you must be getting it somewhere else," I said, not backing down. "So if you don't mind, I'm tired, and since all you're going to do is yell at me, I might as well go to bed," I told her. "So I assume you're not sleeping in our bedroom any longer," she said sarcastically. "What's the point? You don't want me there any longer, and I don't go where I'm not wanted," I said, climbing the stairs. "Sleep by yourself, see if I care," Sarah said, shouting as I climbed the stairs. It was then that my chest first started to hurt. Every step I took was painful, but I wasn't about to stop. I barely made it to the top landing before I had to rest against the wall or fall down, one of the two. I made it to the spare room, fell down on the bed fully clothed, and passed out. When I finally awoke and looked at my watch, I saw it was 3:30. "I can't let her get to me like that," I told myself as I went to the bathroom, splashing water on my face. I looked in the mirror and didn't like what I saw. "I've got to get it together," I told myself as I stripped off my clothes, which were soaked with sweat. I slept in until almost 10 the following morning. The house was quiet, Sarah had already left, so I called into work and told them I was taking a vacation day. Instead of relaxing at home, I went to my doctor. "You've got to drop at least 70 pounds, he told me. and your blood pressure is sky high. I'm going to prescribe you something to bring it back down to earth. But if you don't start taking better care of yourself, you're asking for serious trouble," he warned. I'd heard it all before, at least for the last 4 years. I'd tried to diet, but it just wasn't something I liked to do, so I didn't. I told him I would try to drop some weight and would take the meds. He set me up for a 3-month follow-up appointment, and I left with a chart on calories and 2 diet programs to try. I threw them on the back seat of the car. Things around the house turned cold at best. We no longer ate together and only spoke to one another when we absolutely had to. It was the end of our 2nd month when we started talking to one another again. There was no sorry, we only talked about superficial things or the kids. Saturday was the annual charity auction at the club. "Chris, are you going?" Sarah asked. "Yes, I'm going," I replied. "Well, we might as well go together. Is your tux pressed?" she asked. "Cleaned, pressed, and ready to go." It was a quiet ride to the club. We talked about nothing important until I took the lead. "I'm sorry," was all I said as I drove on without looking at her. "I am too," Sarah replied. "I've missed you, and I don't want to fight anymore." That's all we had time for as I pulled up to the club. I gave the attendant my keys and he gave me the claim ticket. I walked around, opened Sarah's door, and offered her my hand. She took it, smiled, and my heart skipped a beat. We walked into the dining room and found our table. Dinner was okay, but the wine was a lot better. I'd ordered 4 bottles for our table, and along with the other 3 couples, we toasted to our good health. After the dinner, the band started and people began to dance. I danced one slow dance with Sarah, and that was more than enough for me. She asked if I minded if she danced with a few other men. "No problem," I told her. I walked around the room and was visiting with a few friends when I caught sight of Sarah on the dance floor. It was a slow dance, and I didn't recognize the man she was dancing with. His arm started around her waist but was slowly moving lower. Before long, it was resting on the center of her rear. 2 dances later, the same thing happened again as they danced outside onto the moonlit patio. I followed, staying out of sight. They were too far away for me to hear what they were talking about, but their body language was speaking loud and clear. When he bent over and kissed her, I'd seen enough. "Not staying for the auction?" the parking lot attendant asked. "Nothing in there I want anymore," I replied as I got into my car and drove off. I was about 30 minutes away when my cell phone rang. Guess who? I turned it off and put it on the seat next to me. I had been home about 2 hours when Sarah stormed in. "What the hell is your problem? Why did you just up and leave me?" she yelled. "I thought the 2 of you wanted to be alone," I replied. "What the hell are you talking about, Chris? The dark-haired man, the patio, the kiss, I saw it all," I told her. "That was nothing," she shot back. "Nothing? Are you saying that a man kissing my wife is nothing? Well, I care to differ, Sarah, and I suppose you're now making it a habit to let men feel you up while you dance with them?" "I and everyone else saw your display on the dance floor," I told her. Or was I just imagining it? "Chris, it's not what it looked like. I guess I should have asked Alex to move his hand. But it was all just a little innocent flirting," she told me, "and the kiss was nothing more than him thanking me for dancing with him. I left to look for you right after that." "And it took you 2 hours to come back home?" "Since you weren't answering your phone, I had to find someone to give me a ride home. Let me guess, Alex just happened to volunteer to drive you home, am I right?" "Yes, it was Alex, and no, nothing happened," she tried to assure me as I started to walk away. "Damn it, nothing happened, Chris," she said again. "How long has it been?" I asked. "How long has what been? How long ago did you give up on us?" I said, walking up to my new and permanent room. "God damn it, Chris, I didn't do anything," she screamed at me as she started to cry. "I guess it was shortly after I gave up on myself," was my final comment as I closed and locked the bedroom door. I never left the bedroom Sunday. I slept in and did a lot of thinking about how my life had turned out. I had 2 kids that I never heard from unless they wanted something, and a wife who I was basically cohabitating with, something like a sister. I needed to get away for a few days. Our lake cabin was about an hour's drive from the house. It had been my parents', and when they passed on, I bought out my brother's share and redid the interior. Monday, I threw together a few things and headed out. A quick call to work, and I was on my own for the next 4 days. I just needed time alone to sort out a few things without Sarah hovering over me. As soon as I opened the door, I knew something was wrong. I hadn't been there in at least 8 months, and when I left, the place was immaculate. Someone had been here since then. There was an empty bottle of wine on the counter, and after a quick inspection, I found that our bed had been slept in. Not only slept in, but someone had also had some fun on the bed. I could still see the ring left from what was the wet spot on the white sheets. Well, I now know where, and I've got a pretty good idea with whom, I said to myself as I dragged the mattress to the door and tossed it out on the lawn. My heart was pounding, and I was sweating buckets as I sat down in a chair on the porch. "Chris, old buddy, it looks like you've been replaced," I said to myself as I started to get angry again. The hell with all of them. I don't need them. I used to, but not anymore, I told myself. Over the next 4 days, I made up a list of what I wanted out of life, where I wanted to go, and none of it included any of my family. It was something like a bucket list without having to kick the bucket. I got home late Friday afternoon, but Sarah was nowhere to be found. She never came home that night, and by Saturday afternoon, I decided to smoke a rack or two of ribs and wait for her. I was almost looking forward to her explanation of where she'd been for the past 2 days when all hell broke loose and I had my heart attack. So that now brings you to where I am currently. I finally called Paul from the rehab center to tell him I was still alive and kicking. They wouldn't put my calls through, he told me. "How are you feeling?" "Better, but still pretty weak. It looks like I'm going to be laid up for a couple of months. I need Lily to bring by my laptop so I can keep in touch and updated." "You think that's wise?" Paul replied. "Don't worry, I won't overdo it. But between Lily and me, we'll keep everything current," I told him. "You know your wife was here the other day. She took something off your desk. I think it was that picture of the two of you." "You guys doing okay?" he asked. "Never better. Just have Lily drop off my computer, and for God's sake, please don't tell anyone where I am." "I sure as hell don't need any visitors," I told him. "By the way, I'm milking our health insurance for everything I can get out of it," I said with a laugh. "That's what it's there for. Just get better, and let me know if you need anything, buddy." Bastards, that's what I called them, after the second week. First, they tried to work me to death in the gym, and now they're trying to feed me no more than a few scraps of food. "I've seen bigger appetizers," I said to myself, looking at my dinner plate. I was exercising 4 times a day and eating 5 meals a baby couldn't survive on, but I was losing weight. After about 5.5 weeks, I was less crabby and into the groove. The food sucked, and there was never enough, but I liked what was happening to me. I could walk on the treadmill for 30 minutes without oxygen. My pants were loose around my middle, and for the first time in a long time, I started feeling better about myself. "Damn it, I can do this," I told myself. When the Goodwill truck pulled into the driveway, Sarah thought they were just using it to turn around. "Mrs. Davis?" the driver asked. "Yes, I'm Mrs. Davis. I've been given a pickup order with instructions to get with you," he told her. "What pickup order? I never ordered a pickup." "I know that, miss." "It was initiated by your husband, Chris Davis," he said, showing her his signature on the bottom of the page. "It says here to pick up every piece of clothing in the house that belongs to your husband. The note explained that they're not already boxed up, so if you don't mind, could you please show me where things are so we can get started? We've still got one more pickup this afternoon." She showed them Chris' closet and dresser in their bedroom and took one of the workmen downstairs to where his winter clothes were stored. It took them just under an hour to get everything boxed up and loaded into the truck. She signed their receipt and got her copy before they drove off. "What the hell is he doing?" she thought to herself. After the blow-up in his room, she was not allowed to see or speak to Chris while he was in the hospital. The doctor wouldn't tell her how he was doing or when he would be released. When Chris wouldn't see David or Natalie, she really got worried. She knew he was mad at her, but that was no excuse not to see his kids. Tuesday, she snuck into the hospital and climbed the stairs to his floor. There was no way that nurse was going to keep her out this time. She waited until the nurse was at the other end of the hall and then ran into Chris' room, bursting through the door. "Why won't you talk to me?" she shouted. A stunned woman looked at her and replied, "Because I don't know you," she said, trying to figure out what the hell this crazy woman was doing in her room. "All right, where have you moved Chris Davis?" she shouted to the nurse at the front desk. "I'm sorry, he's gone," the nurse replied. Her eyes teared up. "When? How?" she asked. "What did they do with his body?" "I'm his wife, damn it. I have a right to know," she said, getting angry again through her tears. "When I said he was gone, I meant he checked out 2 days ago. If you want any more information, you'll have to go down to the office." "So if that's all, I have a floor of sick people to take care of," the nurse told her. The business office said Chris had been discharged and sent to a rehab clinic, but they were not at liberty to tell her where. "Patient's orders," she was told. Great. Back to square one, she said to herself, walking out the door. Sitting in her car, she planned her next move. Chris was right. She had given up on the two of them a long time ago. His weight had skyrocketed, and whenever she said something about it, he told her not to nag him. When they did have sex, he was like a huge sack of potatoes lying on top of her. When she told him he was crushing her, he'd get upset and try on his arms or elbows. By that time, she was just happy to have him finish and get off her. Sex with him was no longer enjoyable, and when he even mentioned the word sex, her stomach would tighten up. They did it maybe once a month, and that was only after he whined about it for a day or two. She guessed you could call it pity sex because, although he got off, she never did. She was getting really frustrated, and that's when Alex came into the picture. She first met Alex when they joined the country club. They had a dinner and dance once a month, and he would always come alone. During the night, he would dance with all the available women. As the evenings progressed, Chris would be off drinking or feeding his face, and Alex and Sarah would dance the night away. It had been a long time since anyone had held her like that. Soon the routine became one of dancing a few numbers and then sitting and talking on the patio until it was time to leave, or until she saw Chris looking for her. After a couple of months, they met for lunch one Saturday afternoon while Chris was off golfing. They had a couple of glasses of wine, and everything just seemed so right. They ended up in the back seat of his car, making out like a couple of teenagers. They did everything there was to do without taking their clothes off. She gave him an Aussie kiss, and he fingered her until she climaxed at least twice. It had been so long since she'd felt this way. They straightened their clothes, kissed goodbye, and she headed back to the house. She didn't even feel guilty until she was in the shower trying to get herself off again while thinking about Alex. What the hell was she doing? Fooling around with some guy in the back seat of his car, and now she was trying to get off while thinking about him instead of her husband. How sick is that? She said to herself, getting disgusted at what she was doing. The problem was she no longer felt sexually attracted to her husband. She nagged Chris for the next 2 weeks about his weight and tried to tell him how sexy he'd be if he lost 60 pounds, but he never got the hint. He just got angry with her again. Everything came crashing down when he wanted to fool around one night after dinner. It was a disaster of a session, and he got mad and went into the bathroom. She felt bad, but not that bad. He slept in the spare room that night and was gone before she got up the next day. She had the dark brown touch the following morning at work. Everything she touched turned to shit. She was feeling sorry for herself and did something stupid. She emailed Chris and basically told him that it was all his fault last night because he'd walked out on her. He, however, came back with a real eye-opener. Whomever she was cheating with, she'd better stop if she still wanted to stay married, was all it said. There was no way he could possibly have known about that Saturday. However, if he were taking care of business at home, it never would have happened. And it's not like they had sex or anything. It was only a little fooling around, that's all. She guessed she never should have answered his email when she was mad because she called him everything she could think of. She told him she'd never cheated on him, and if he weren't such an overweight slob, they'd have more sex. She now realized that she was basically pushing him away, and she guessed he was tired of arguing. That's when he replied back that maybe he should stay permanently in the guest room if she no longer wanted him anymore. It was now spiraling out of control. When Chris got home, they had a huge argument. They threw accusations at each other, and he went one way and she the other. She slept alone that night, and for many, many nights after that. It was the night of the charity auction that they finally apologized to each other. It had been tearing her apart, but she guessed they were both too stubborn to admit they were either wrong or what the real underlying problem was. They had a wonderful dinner. Chris danced with her and then decided to mingle with his friends. She made the mistake of dancing with Alex. They danced maybe a little too close, and out on the patio, he told her he wanted to take it to the next level, and then he kissed her. She told him that it had been a mistake and that she would never cheat on her husband, and left him out there licking his wounds. She never saw Chris leave, nor did anyone else. The parking lot attendant told her he had left about an hour earlier, and when she called him, it went right to voicemail. She was pissed and had one too many drinks before realizing she'd have to find some way home. Alex came over and asked what was the matter. Chris got mad for some reason and left. "He won't answer his phone, and I need to find a way home," she said. "Sarah, after the auction, I'll give you a ride home," he said. She shot him back a look. "And I'll keep my hands to myself also," he assured her. She drank halfway through the auction before they left. On the ride home, she started getting angry all over again. How could he just leave her there? She fumed. She guessed Alex saw how angry she was and told her to relax. When he pulled into the parking lot by the lake, she was surprised. And when he reached over to kiss her, she didn't stop him. The only reason they didn't go all the way that night was a police car making its rounds through the parking lot. When he hit the car with his spotlight, she sobered up in one hell of a hurry. "Alex, take me home now," she demanded. When she got home, she thanked him and ran to the house. She was almost sober but angry as hell all over again. When Chris accused her of cheating, she went ballistic. What cut her to the core was when he asked her when she had given up on their marriage. She broke down and started to cry, telling him that she'd never cheated on him, but he no longer believed her. Sunday, Chris never left his room, and she didn't push it. She figured they'd have words Monday, and she wanted to make sure she had all her ducks in a row. When he didn't come home Monday night, she just thought it was his way of punishing her. When he didn't come home Tuesday, she called his assistant Lily and was told that he had taken a couple of days' vacation. "The bastard is off somewhere sulking," she said to herself. "Well, two can play that game." She left Wednesday to spend a couple of days with her daughter up at college. They had a great time bonding and even had a girls' night out with a couple of her friends Friday night. Saturday morning, she woke up with a hangover and an upset stomach. "Guess I'm too old for that kind of partying anymore," she said, dressing to leave. She said goodbye to her daughter, thanked her for the good time, and drove home. She had no more than gotten out of her car when her next-door neighbor came running over. Chris was taken by ambulance to the hospital this morning, she told her. The front door was shut, but the lock was broken. She ran inside and saw a few things had been moved around and could smell the smoker on the deck. The coals were almost out, but there were 2 slabs on the grill. She took them off, put them in the refrigerator, and opened up the yellow pages. There were only 2 hospitals in their area. She called Mercy General and hit pay dirt. Chris had been admitted, but they wouldn't give her any details over the phone. She changed and headed out. "A triple bypass," she almost shouted. "How long will he be in surgery?" she asked. "About another hour," she was told. "There's nothing you can do but wait. He's got a great doctor and we caught it in time. From surgery, he will go to post-op, and from there, he will be assigned a room. If you wait in the lounge, I'll come and get you when they're finished." Can you say had? Because that's exactly what she felt like. He could have died, she kept saying over and over to herself. When she got him home, she was going to show him how much she loved him. They'd get through this together. But she wasn't given the chance. She finally tracked him down to the rehab clinic, but he still refused to see her. She was getting pissed. Stubborn was one thing, but Chris was taking it to the extreme. He must have found out somehow about what happened with Alex. She didn't have a clue how, but someone must have seen them and told him. She just needed the chance to explain to him that nothing really happened, but he was avoiding her like the plague. Paul and Lily weren't much help, but when she found out he had his laptop, she sent him an email, although not like her last one. "Chris, I love and miss you, honey, and I don't understand why you won't let me see you. I know we've had some issues lately and we've both said things in anger, but I love you and I still believe you love me. Please give me the chance to explain anything you think I've done or not done. Chris, I need you and want to grow old and gray with you. If you won't let me see you, at least talk to me. Also, the kids don't understand why you won't see them. They came to the hospital, and when the nurse wouldn't let them in your room, David got more than a little angry. Please drop them a line because they're very concerned also. Your loving wife. I was sending an email to a salesman who had lost a big order out of sheer stupidity when Sarah's email popped up. I finished reaming the salesman, telling him if it happened again, he'd be on the outside looking in. Then I got back to Sarah. I read it 3 times before I responded back to her. Dear Sarah, let's cut to the chase. You haven't been my loving wife in well over a year. It's true I've put on a lot of weight, but when you got as big as a house while pregnant with David, did I belittle you? Fat or skinny, I'm the same man you married all those years ago. Don't try blowing smoke up my ass now that I'm laid up. You no longer have any interest in going to bed with me. You made that perfectly clear the last time we were together. From what I've seen and found out, it looks like I've been replaced by Alex or whomever. I found your love nest. You could have at least done me the courtesy of changing the sheets and throwing out the trash. I did manage to toss out the mattress and empty wine bottles. You are right about one thing, though. We will both grow old and get gray. It's just that we won't be doing it together. Your soon-to-be ex-husband. That should shut her up, I said to myself as I hit the send key. I made a list of all my assets. Sarah was going to get 50 of everything she knew about. It's the things she didn't know about I wanted to make sure were kept secret. Paul told me that if he was asked by the court, he'd have to reveal I was a partner, but if they just wanted to verify my wages, that's all he would give them. The cabin was mine, a gift from my parents, and we could just keep the cars we were each driving to make it simple. I guessed everything else would be thrown into a big pot, and we'd each get half. I was satisfied with that. What love nest? Sarah's reply. I don't have a clue what you're talking about. Our bedroom is the only love nest I know about. If you're accusing me of something, at least have the courtesy to confront me instead of playing these childish games. I replied back to her. How stupid do you think I am? I went up to the cabin and found all the evidence. Too bad I was up there the week before my heart attack. Did you spend Friday and Saturday at his place, or did he spring for a hotel room this time? I thought that should shut her up, but it wasn't more than 10 minutes before I had her reply. Hell, this is the most we've conversed in the last 4 months. Call your daughter up and ask her. Natalie spent Wednesday through Saturday morning with her up at college after you so graciously disappeared Monday without telling me. And for your information, I haven't been back to the cabin since you and I were last there about 8 months ago. So if that's all you've got, it's pretty pathetic. Could I be wrong? Regardless, the last 2 years of our marriage have been a real turnoff. David, Dad here, is how I started the conversation with my son. Yes, I'm fine and doing pretty well. And no, I don't want to discuss your mother right now, I told him. Now came my bluff. I know you've been cheating on Emma, and I wanted to stop before I call her and rat you out, you piece of shit. Dad, I don't know what you're talking about, David replied. David, I was up at the cabin, and our neighbors said they saw the two of you when you went up there. You didn't even change the sheets, you asshole. What do you think Emma's going to say when I call her? If she doesn't shoot your ass, her brothers are sure to pay you a visit, I said, still fishing. It was only that one time, Dad. You've got to believe me. It's not an affair, it was only one time, and she doesn't even work at the company anymore. I could hear him pleading for his life. I'm going to say this one time and one time only. If I ever hear of you fooling around or even think you're looking at another woman, I will call Emma in a heartbeat. From now on, she'd better be the happiest and most taken care of wife on the face of this earth, if you get my drift. Get your head out of your ass and grow up, goddammit. I will, Dad. You can count on it. Please just don't call Emma, he begged. All right, son, I've got to go. Remember what I told you, I warned him before hanging up. Well, that was interesting, I said to myself as I considered my next move and wrote one last email to Sarah. Well, I guess you weren't screwing anyone up at the cabin. It turns out it was our son. That, however, still doesn't explain your actions with Alex and whomever else. I guess I was still in love with you up to that night, but no more. I think you still love me, but you haven't been in love with me for a very long time. I'm sorry to say, and I can't live like that anymore. Life is way too short. I found out in a very painful way. That's how I ended it. I was to blame as much as Sarah. We knew we were drifting apart and never did anything to stop it. Between her work, the kids, and her social calendar, there was no time left for us. And with me trying to conquer the business world all by myself, I was no better. The only difference was that Sarah looked as good as when I first met her, and I looked like someone out of Slobzaru's magazine. But no more. I spent the next 3 months doing nothing but exercising and eating right. The first 40 pounds dropped off fast, but then I hit the first of many plateaus. I never let up, though. I was now driven to regain what I'd lost years ago me waste, and most of all, my life. Sarah and I emailed each other every week to keep one another updated on what was going on in our lives, but we never saw one another. After 6 months, I half expected to get divorce papers, but none ever came. Our emails mostly dealt with how we felt about one another and our breakup, the problems each one of us saw in our marriage, and why we did nothing to resolve them. As I said earlier, we were both at fault. Thanksgiving sucked. The kids split their time between the two of Usher dinner and my dessert. David announced that Emma was pregnant, and Natalie said she'd finally gotten her degree or would have it by the end of the semester. I laughed and said I'd believe it when I see it. They tried to pump me for information, but I told them it was none of their business. Natalie got a little huffy but backed off when I told her enough was enough. Our email during the holidays took on a new direction, but I still can't tell you how it happened. They became more intimate and emotional. One night, Sarah asked if I remembered the first night we ever did it. Our roommate's parents walked in on us. I corrected her, telling her that time didn't count because we never had a chance to actually finish. It wasn't until 2 weeks later that we finally did the deed, and so on. We walked down memory lane for almost a month. For Christmas, I sent her a pair of sapphire earrings. I knew she didn't have a pair because she had given hers to Natalie on her 21st birthday. I just put in a little note, "To replace the ones you gave up," is all it said. Sarah never sent me anything for Christmas, but I guessed I really didn't expect anything. As New Year's approached, Paul hit me up with a problem. "Chris, my wife's sister is coming into town, and Emily wants to take her with us to the New Year's Eve party at the country club. Her sister won't go stag, and Emily refuses to leave her at home by herself. Can you be a buddy and be her date New Year's Eve? Come on, Chris, I'll owe you big time." He must have begged for a week before I finally relented. What the hell, I was just going to sit in front of the TV anyway. I then realized it was formal, and I no longer had a tux. It took me 3 stores and a huge bribe to get a tux and have it tailored in less than a week. "Wait until Paul sees my expense report for December," I said with a laugh. David and his wife invited me over for New Year's Eve, but I told them I was going out. "You've got a date?" he asked. "Not a date. I'm chaperoning my boss's wife's sister," I told him. "You don't have to lie to me." "I won't tell Mom," he replied. "I'm not lying, and your mom probably already has a date for New Year's Eve herself." "So why don't we just drop it?" I said, getting a little annoyed. That was the one thing neither of us had mentioned over the last 9 months, whether either of us was dating. I had gone to a few business lunches, but that was about it. I wasn't sure about Sarah, though. A good-looking woman like her probably had a full dance card. We were still married, but basically in name only. I guessed after the first of the year we should probably address that issue, I said to myself. I was at Paul's house by 7:00. He let me in, and I met Emily's sister, Jessica. She was about 47 and very nice on the eyes. I suggested that we go in one car, but Paul insisted that we take 2 cars. "Look, after the dance you can head home, and I'll take the 2 women back with me." "That is unless you plan on trying to get lucky with Jessica," he said, elbowing me in the side as Emily told him to act his age, not his shoe size. The place was packed, and there wasn't an open seat to be had. I knew most of the people at our table, and they marveled at how good I looked. "Wow, Chris, how much weight have you lost?" "Somewhere in the area of 90 pounds, I told them. Hell, if I didn't know you so well, I never would have recognized you, one of them said. Dinner was decent with a choice of steak or chicken, and along with the vegetables and rice, it was palatable. I ate about half. There was no use blowing my diet tonight. I had one glass of wine and nursed my second as I reacquainted myself with people I hadn't seen in the last 9 months. Afterward, the lights dimmed and the band started. Jessica said she wasn't much of a dancer, and I sure as hell wasn't. So after a few songs, I excused myself and started walking the room. That's when I saw her. She was stunning, about 58 tall, brown hair, and a body to die for. She was wearing a blue strapless dress that hugged every curve of her body. I watched her for the next half hour as she danced a few semi-fast songs with 3 older gentlemen. Every time a slow dance started, she went back to her table and sat down. Even though she was asked, she never danced a slow dance with anyone. I slipped one of the members of the band a 100 bill and asked him to play 2 slow songs back to back, with the first one being "You Look Lovely Tonight." And I didn't care what the second one was as long as it was slow. Just as the band started to play, I walked behind this angel and asked her to dance. "I'm sorry, I only dance slow songs with my husband," she started to say without looking at me. "Well, then I guess there will be no problem," I said, reaching in and grabbing her hand. She turned around and started to say something when she yelled out, "Chris," in the flesh. "Now about that dance," I said, pulling Sarah to the floor. "Chris" was all I let her get out of her mouth. "Don't talk, just dance with me," I told Sarah as I held her tight, moving across the floor. I never released her as the second song started. I was feeling her back and waist, and as the band played Nights in White Satin, I pulled her in even tighter. My body responded with the largest erection I'd had in the last year. This time, however, the rolls of flab didn't hide it. "Looks like someone missed me," Sarah whispered into my ear. She was right, I had missed her, but I wasn't about to go back to the life I'd left behind. When the song ended, I didn't want to let her go, and I didn't. "I guess we should talk one of these days," I started to say, still holding onto her hand. "Why not now?" "Don't you think your date might get a little jealous?" I replied. "What date?" "I came with David and Emma," she said, motioning to them on the dance floor as David smiled back at me. "I'll be back in a second," I told her as I went back to my table. "You set me up, didn't you?" I asked Paul. "No, David, Emma and I set both you and Sarah up," he said with a smile. "Hell, Jessica didn't even want to go. I had to bribe her to even come. So why don't you be a good little boy and get the hell out of here, and I'll see you sometime next week?" David and Emma were already back at the table by the time I returned. "Think you two are pretty smart, don't you?" I asked David. He and Emma smiled at Sarah and me. "I had no idea what they were planning," Sarah said as her eyes begged me to believe her. "Dad, I didn't say where we'd be, just if you'd like to spend New Year's Eve with us," Emma interrupted. "The 3 of us," David added. "You two need to talk, and David and I need to leave." "I can't drink. I've eaten my fill, and I'm waddling like a duck on the dance floor in my condition," Emma said, rubbing her belly. "So if you two don't mind, we're out of here." There were a million things I wanted to say, but Sarah started talking a mile a minute. "You look so good, Chris. How much weight have you lost? Where are you living? I lost track of you when you moved out of the rehab center. Are you dating? Are you seeing anyone in particular?" And on and on and on, she continued. It was like she was trying to get all her questions answered in the first 5 minutes because she guessed she was afraid there wouldn't be another chance. "Let's get out of here and go somewhere where we can talk," I told Sarah, grabbing her wrap and leading her out to my car. "Where are we going?" "You'll see," I replied. We drove in silence for the first 5 minutes, both of us almost afraid to say something that would break the mood. "I haven't been dating and haven't been to bed with anyone, if you're wondering," Sarah said without looking at me. "And I never went to bed with Alex, or anyone else either, no matter what anyone told you." "I know," I replied, keeping my eyes on the road. "What do you mean you know? You were the one who accused me of cheating on you. I know that, and if I had proof that you were sleeping around, we wouldn't be in this car together right now," I told her. She was now quiet and deep in thought. It was just before midnight when I pulled into the driveway of our lake house. I left the lights on as I unlocked the door and came back to the car to get Sarah. Once inside, I started the gas fireplace and opened up a bottle of our favorite wine and poured us a glass. "This is the way it started and ended 9 months ago," I said, handing her a glass. "No, it didn't. It started a lot earlier than that. It just came to a head that night," she told me. "You can't imagine how many nights I lay awake wondering how you must hate me for what I said and did to you, and that if you ever gave me another chance, how I'd make it up to you," Sarah said, starting to tear up. I reached over and pulled her to me, covering her now salty lips. Our glasses of wine weren't touched for quite a while after that. Our clothes were scattered on the living room floor, on the kitchen table, and the rest lying in a pile on the bedroom floor as we got naked and fell into bed. It had been a long time for both of us. Grabbing my head, she pulled me up to her lips. "I owe you this," she whispered as she moved lower. After a heated session, she fell forward onto my chest as we started to come down, and we held each other tight, almost afraid of letting go. "I guess that's what you call starting the new year off with a bang," I told her. I went back to the kitchen and grabbed our glasses of wine and the bottle. "This conversation is going to take a while," I said, flopping back on the bed, glasses in hand. "We toasted the new and hopefully better year. I know we have a lot to discuss, but I just want to tell you again how sorry I am," Sarah started. "Stop," I interrupted. "You're sorry. I'm sorry. The kids are sorry. Everyone is sorry, but that changes nothing. We need to change. You and I both need to change the way we look at what's left of our marriage. I won't go back to what I left. I'd rather get a divorce and start over," I told her. "I don't want a divorce," Sarah said as she started to cry. "Listen to what I'm saying. I don't want a divorce either, but I won't go back to the life I was living before all this happened. The house has to go, and you can move into the condo I'm renting for now. We can figure out later where we want to live. It's just that the house has too many bad memories for me. But that's our home," she said, pleading, "and I'm your husband. It should be a no-brainer for you which to choose. Well, sell the house, take what furniture we want, and either donate the rest or give it to the kids. I don't want the expense, upkeep, or responsibility of a big house any longer. A 2-bedroom condo is all we really need. I want to travel and see all the things I've put off all these years. I've been given a second chance, and I'm not going to squander it," I told her. "But you and I both have commitments and responsibilities," she protested. "Screw them all," I told her. "I'll work and give them 100 when I'm there, but that's it. No more weekends, business traveling, or damn golf outings anymore. I want my life back. I want to have fun, and I want to feel excited about doing something new. And if I want to make love morning, noon, and night, I don't want a wife telling me she's not in the mood, not anymore." "Chris, I don't know if I can do all that," Sarah replied. "Well then, you have a choice to make, but make it quick. The train is leaving the station and you're either on it or not." The wind on my face was warm as we rode the bike toward our third leg of the trip. I'd never seen the wine country and decided to take a week and visit a few vineyards, staying a night in each. We had left shortly after breakfast and figured that even with a little sightseeing, we'd still arrive early afternoon and have more than enough time for a tour. It had been a million years since I'd been on a bike, and it had been only a 250cc Honda. The Harley we'd rented was about 1,350cc and weighed over 1,200 pounds. What a difference, but it handled like a dream, and for the first time in a long time I felt happy and free as I felt her arms around me. We arrived, checked in, and made our way toward our cottage. "I'm glad I came," she said, kissing me in the doorway. "I'm glad you did too. I think we have just enough time to put our stuff away before the tour starts," I said, throwing our bags on one of the beds. Taking off her jacket and then peeling off her shirt, she stood there with her hands on her hips. "You have a choice. We can take the tour, or I can give you a tour of my own," she said with a wicked look on her face. I shut and locked the door. Her tour was a lot more fun and rewarding. We showered, and while getting dressed for dinner, I pulled her into my arms and kissed her. "Any regrets?" I asked. "None," Jessica replied. "So let's get moving. I'm starved." "That's right, Jessica. You see, Sarah missed the train. Chris, we're not kids any longer. We just can't throw everything away and start again, Sarah said that night at the cabin as she tried to convince me. Let's give it 6 months and talk about it again, okay? The divorce only took 3 months. Even though everyone thought I had lost my mind, I moved on. The kids took her side figures and Sarah decided to keep the house. We split up almost everything down the center as Paul gave the court my annual salary. I haven't spoken to or seen Sarah since the divorce. I hope she's doing okay. You see, I met Jessica at a 5K run one Saturday morning. We both took first in our respective age groups, and after that we started jogging together after work. After a long run one Sunday morning, we took a shower together and had wild sex for the next 2 hours. That was 8 months ago. She's 6 years younger than I am, but she calls me her wild child. Her only question is, are you ever going to grow up? God, I hope not.